Today, Thursday of the first week of Lent, we come to the church San Lorenzo in Panisperna. St. Lawrence, though little known today, was once one of the most beloved saints of Rome and throughout the Latin Christendom. A deacon of the Roman Church in the mid-3rd century, he found himself faced with the task of administering the church after the arrest of Pope Sixtus II and 4 of his fellow deacons in the catacombs of Callistus on the 6th of August, 258. Meeting the Pope while he was being led away to prison and execution, Lawrence begged to join him, but the Pope turned down his request, giving the deacon charge of the temporal goods of the church, while telling him that the deacon would follow his bishop in 4 days' time. Lawrence then went forth and gave away the material goods of the church to the poor in the city. Soon he in turn was arrested and brought before the magistrates. And when the treasures of the church were demanded of him, he presented to the authorities the poor, saying that these were the true treasures of the church. The Romans, enraged, cast the deacon into a dark prison cell near the site of today's church. There he converted the jailer and his family. With the authorities only further angered, they condemned Lawrence to be burnt alive over a gridiron set up on the site of today's church. So it was that on the 10th of August, 258, St. Lawrence was burnt alive for his steadfast faith in Christ. As one final jab at his executioners, Lawrence is said to have remarked to them, as his torments neared their end, "Turn me over, I'm done on this side." Today, the spot of his martyrdom is marked by this small church. A record of a church on this site, then called St. Lawrence in Formonso, exists from the late 8th century, and it seems that this church was built in the early 7th. The current church, though, was built to replace this in the period 1565 to 1574. And in 1757, this church received a restoration, giving it its appearance that it has today. And so after ascending the series of steps to the front doors of this church, we enter into the short nave. The second chapel on the left is dedicated to St. Bridget of Sweden. Originally from classical Rome, her sarcophagus can be discerned from the images on its side. It was used to hold her mortal remains for 5 months before her remains were returned to Sweden. In life, she would pray and receive alms in this church, so it's only fitting that a lasting remembrance of her remains here. Across from this chapel is one dedicated to Saints Crispin and Crispinian. They were Roman cobblers, although here depicted as soldiers, who were put to death in the late 3rd century. Perhaps they're best known for their link to the famous Band of Brothers speech from Shakespeare's Henry V, also known as St. Crispin's Day, a speech that took place on the saint's feast of October 25th, and their relics are under the altar. Now passing the Chapel of the Immaculate Conception, we find ourselves before the high altar and the second largest wall fresco in the city. After that of the Sistine Chapel, it depicts the saint on the gridiron, the flames already curling around him, as the emperor sits in judgment in the background. Yet his eyes are turned upward toward heaven, where an angel is seen carrying down to him the crown of victory, his reward for a battle fought through the victory. Through the 2 side doors in the facade, we can ascend by a flight of steps to the actual place of martyrdom. Clean and well kept now, it will take our imagination to hear the crackle of the flames and the jeering voices of the executioners, and smell the burning flesh of the saint. Yet perhaps more appropriately, it is silent here, a brief foretaste of the peace of heaven that the brave deacon now enjoys.